Oh, good. Hello. Good hello, everybody. How y'all doing today? So, I was literally just thinking about this Fool card in the in between. And I was thinking of the Fool in the After Tarot yesterday. Last night ish, last evening, in the evening yesterday at some point in time. Um, and I thought about it in a way of like it's time to let go and just like take the plunge. And in the after tarot, like the dog is there, and it came out recently, and it was a different message, but it was just like it's time to let go and take the plunge. Like you've already walked off the cliff. No use trying to pull yourself back up now. I don't know. And then I was thinking of Coco earlier and how he needed to get his family's blessing or somebody in his family so he could cross back over. Um, And that may not be relevant. Hey Siri, choose a random number between 1 and 12.
A random number between 1 and 12 is 3.
3. 3 is Gemini. Gemini today. Okay. So this is the before, after, in between. I'm doing it live, but live chat is off. Um, I just like doing these with live chat off. It feels right. And I guess we're going to start with the in between Gemini. And then we'll see where we go from there. There's an element of maturity in this fool. Because usually the dog is a puppy, right? And even the fool themselves, they look a little bit more mature. Into the magician. Just like in the after tarot, the bag of tools is falling. But what's interesting is in this Empress card that was at the bottom of the deck, it feels like between the Empress and the Emperor. It's interesting that the daughter is under the Emperor and the son is under the Empress. But what's most interesting is it feels like the Empress is telling the Emperor how to use that Venusian energy. In other decks, or in a lot of decks, we see the Emperor with an Ankh, and the Ankh is gifted, bestowed upon him by the Empress. So this is her teaching him before, like as it's being handed over. So they both have a hand in it. They both have a say. Or maybe he's giving it back. I don't know. But it's this like walking a mile in each other's shoes energy here. But that was just what came out. That ain't necessarily it. Oof. Well, because here's between the Four of Cups and the Five of Cups, this is that disagreement before they decide not to. Or again, it's like she's heading in his direction, he's heading in hers. I'm not sure. So, I mean, of course it's Gemini because I'm sitting in the middle. I'm like, oh, I didn't change the microphone, so I don't know. Well, I think I changed the default to my laptop, so it is what I want it to be. What's in between for Gemini? What is Gemini in the middle of? In betwixt. I think I'm going to use the Tarot of Dreams for the in between, which is interesting because I don't know. Bottom of the deck is the 4 into the 5 of swords. The 4 of swords, so it's an energy of resting up before a battle, right? Or gearing yourself up to make a change. Could be an energy of preparation. May also be an energy of anxiety around it, or it may be something that maybe you feel not quite prepared for. But again, with that Fool card, it's like the dog was mature, the Fool was mature. It feels like the elements themselves are not conspiring, but like working with you. This was not balanced. King of Wands and the Hanged Man now. Saw the Page of Cups and the 4 of Wands, 7 of Swords and the King of Wands. Gemini, I feel like this is like all over the place. I feel very like, not erratic, but oof. Sun and Gemini. 10 of Swords. Bottom of the deck is the 7. Moon in Aquarius. There's Sun in Capricorn, Neptune, and Saturn in Pisces. I didn't see the Ace of Swords. Saturn in Pisces is the 8 of Cups. I'll take this one. Gemini, Gemini, where are we going? Gemini, Gemini, what dost thou do to me? Sorry. Oh, Gemini, where's we going? There is an energy here of like higher perspective. Honestly, like these cards, it feels like it could be really easy to feel like you're the victim of a certain situation, and you may be. You may have been done wrong. But it feels like if you can, almost like that 2 of Swords with Libra in the after yesterday, where it's like if you could take a step back. If you like get a higher perspective in the situation, it feels like it may reveal something. Maybe there's something in your life that isn't working that you continue to try to make work. And it's like, maybe not. Let me sit with this for a second. It feels like distance or a higher perspective will illuminate something to you in a way where you know it doesn't like serve you anymore. It feels like a hot potato where it's like it's your time to hand it over so you don't get third-degree burns from a potato, right? And then it's very like, well, why did you keep hanging on to the potato? Why didn't you drop it? Why didn't you let it go? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? King of Swords and King of Cups. And it's interesting because it feels like the King of Cups has some hesitation and trepidation, has some resistance towards picking up that cup, but the King of Swords is like reaching for it. So maybe it is like you need to like take a second to slow down before you keep sort of like going for the same things over and over. And it feels like with this energy though, it feels like it gives you the why. With this full moon up here, Like whatever this is, it feels like there's an underlying emotional reason or an underlying deficit of some sort that gets you to keep going down like Ten of Swords paths, or that gets you to keep living out the same trauma in a way. The Queen of Cups before. This feels like a Six of Cups energy. Like there was something that brought you joy in the past, but you don't know what's inside that cup because there's a lid on it. Or you didn't know. There's the Emperor holding the Ankh at the bottom of the deck. But he's not even seated on the throne yet. It's like this is the Emperor when he just inherited it. And there's a saying, it's like absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's also like opportunity makes a thief, but maybe it's an energy of like before you got to know something, like there was a way that it presented itself at first, and then it changed or was changed in some way. And with this Nine of Pentacles, like the Nine of Pentacles is an energy, it's one of the ones where it's like it is what it is before, after, and in between. But definitely before and after, right? In the after, it's like it's more ripe, it's more abundant, but it's still solid in the before. But it feels like this is a situation where it's like you were the only one that was actually invested in it. There is a little bit of a usury energy. Ooh, that's a lot. Hierophant at the bottom of the deck. Young Hierophant, like the Emperor, like he's visibly aged, but it feels like again, like he's just inherited the throne. So maybe it's also a situation where you like expected more maturity, or you expected more from something or someone. You expected better, you expected something to last a long time. And maybe it's that like then this it almost, oh no, there's no nine. I was gonna be like, oh, 7, 8, 10. Where's the nine? Oh, the nine is right here, the Nine of Pentacles, and it was all you. Anyway, sorry. There's this energy where it's like continual self-sacrifice. Like Saturn and Pisces could be like you sacrificing your dreams to please someone else. And now with the Sun and Gemini, it's like you're starting to see all of the ways that that's affected you, maybe throughout your life. Maybe something that you've done for a while is like, you put off your own thing for the sake of someone else or to make a unit work. But it feels like there's someone or something very selfish about this energy, and Gemini is the one who's having to sacrifice. And it's not that they're like it doesn't feel like if this is a relationship or whatever, it's like it's not that there isn't love here, but it's just like a lack of maturity. And there's also an energy of like someone or something that wants the title but doesn't want the responsibility. The Emperor, the Queen of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands, the Five of Cups, the Nine of Cups, and Strength. I'm going to put this on its side so I can fit all these in here. So we got another Queen. See, yeah, it feels like the Emperor is the one with the title, but the Queen of Pentacles may be the one actually doing all the work. Maybe the Emperor is a little Nine of Wandsy. There, yeah, see, that energy of selfishness is here. This Emperor energy isn't grounded. And it feels like it's very. It almost feels like Gemini feels like they're dealing with two people. Because, like, this is like, these are the promises, these are the actions. It's very like, say one thing but do another. Ah, that's a problem, boy. Sorry. You say one thing and do another. If you know, you know. Yeah, it's like say one thing and do another. It never actually takes a seat. And this Five of Cups, it's like it feels like Gemini is just like, oh well, like maybe one day they'll get it. But it reaches a point where this cat knocks over enough cups, and you're like, okay, so this is just going to be what this is. And so you're in the space of taking care of yourself, which is again sort of mirrored and echoed up here. But this is more financial. This feels like more of like having to be the responsible one. This is an energy of like fulfillment because it reaches that point where you can only give so much, you can only do so much before you need to be poured into. And maybe like if this is a relationship, it was like two people who got together when they were young, because this is the Hierophant before. But you see both hands on this crown. It reminds me of the Empress into the Emperor, but only one person is wearing that crown. And it feels like, hold up. This is you, Gemini. And then this is this other person. And it could be like a job, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a person. And this Strength card, it feels like you, it's like there's this energy where you start to do more. And it feels like you try to encourage this other person to also do more. Like it feels like your heart is very much so in this situation. So this isn't necessarily something that you can at least easily just walk away from. It feels like there's been an investment here, and there is love here. And it almost feels like this energy of like, this is, it's an attempt to get on the same page with someone, but it's not being met well. Because again, it's like this energy still wants to do what it wants to do. And I feel like maybe it's been a cycle for Gemini that it's like, you know, you get fed up, you say something, they go, okay, I'll do this. Or maybe like you fall apart and then you're like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And you come back together and it's like, it feels like it's endlessly repeating. And this Eight of Cups energy and to the Ten of Swords, it feels like maybe your patience is running thin, or maybe you're coming into the space of some kind of progression and movement that you've been working towards this whole time. And it's like as you get space or as you move up or as you progress, you kind of sort of start to realize this as the drain and the blockage that it is. And honestly, for this, I don't feel comfortable doing it after. because at the end of the day, I mean, I guess I have a few cards that I can pull, right? I have two title cards. I have a high priestess. Let me see what are going to be my STFU cards. Either title card, the high priestess. Um, I guess it's those three. Because it's like at the end of the day, like these are choices and decisions that you have to make. And you have to decide whether or not you want to continue to endure, delay. Like that's not a like watch a reading and find out what you should do thing. That's a like have a conversation with yourself and maybe the person or job or whoever and see what you should do thing. Wheel of Fortune and the Moon. And I feel like with this Ten of Swords, like if there is a separation now, if there is a separation here, it feels like it would be painful. But it's not fair for you to give up and sacrifice your life, your happiness, your well being for someone who doesn't even show up in a substantial way, who doesn't meet you there. Because it's very much this energy. It's like, it's sort of like they get to go out and do what they want to do. But again, it's like you're the one that has to shoulder the burden of all these responsibilities. And when you try to share it, when you try to even the playing field, when you try to make it more equal of a partnership, this person like doesn't take it well at all. The Lovers, the Hermit, and Death, with the Magician at the bottom of the deck. So the Magician after has picked up the wand. The Magician before uses only the sword and it's picked up the magic candle wand thing. Before it only used the sword and the staff. The cup was out. The cup was being presented. The pinnacle was in something else's hands. It was in the monkey's hands. This is Mercury, which is Gemini, Virgo, Gemini, Scorpio death. So Gemini, there is this energy here that's like it's pulling all of you sort of together. Even parts of you that aren't necessarily within your like standard library, I want to say. Because it's like you even go to the feminine side of your ruling planet to get Virgo. And then your ruling planet is represented here in the Magician. So yeah, it's really one of those things that you kind of sort of have to decide for yourself. This is moon energy. Here, on the other side of this is the moon. Because those two pillars with the sun, those are in the moon card. So there is an energy, it's like when you do what's best for you, it puts you in a space to receive better. And you, like, we never know sort of like what that better is or how that better will come to be. And I feel like in both of these, the sword is featured prominently. Like in this one, it's like right in the middle of the card, and this one, it's not. But like, look how big it is, right? The sword is sticking out. Also, this snake is like really long. And for a snake to get this big, it's had to have shed its skin several times. Again, like this is a full grown dog. This is some kind of companionship that you found while in while you've been like this, though. It feels like an element of like self-love and like self-respect and self-validation and like self-worth, and like all of this is a suite of self things that you found in the middle of all this. And honestly, it feels like you're reaching the point, or you're going to reach the point where you're like, if I have to do this by myself, I'll do it, because I'm basically doing it by myself right now. And it feels like it isn't necessarily ultimatum energy, but again, it's like in neither one of these cards, like a person isn't holding the sword. Here, the magician is sort of like in this, like, what will be energy. If it gets cut off, it gets cut off. If it reignites, it reignites. If it stays, it stays. And if it grows, it grows. But if not, and again, it's like the angel up here is the one with the sword. But anyway, this feels like the part of you that's gonna assist you in being less likely to repeat like all this stuff. And this is a 96311. It feels like the 3 from the 13 here is broken off to get the 963, and then the 1 with this 10 makes an 11. And that 3 is Empress energy. So it's like you standing in your power and enforcing your boundaries and communicating your standards. It's gonna be the thing that maybe, and it's like it's about more than just communicating it. I feel like it's also about enforcing it, because again, it feels like this conversation has happened before, but because it's like, because you continue to go back, the expectation is there. And it feels like it's really starting to breed some kind of frustration, maybe. But again, it's like it feels like a situation that you're invested in, so you don't want to just leave. It feels like you'd rather not leave, but again, with the sword sort of outside of the person's hands, if it comes to it, then that's what it comes down to. And it feels like you already know what it is that you need to do. But with this mature hermit energy, but it feels like there's something in this that you still don't necessarily expect, or that you wouldn't know until it reaches that point. Because again, it's like the hermit has befriended the dog, so by the time you make it to that moon energy, it's like you're not going to be afraid of the dog and the wolf that's going to like bark and yip at you, right? Or whatever, even if they snap at you. And there's something very comforting about this energy. It feels like the horse from death is comforting this mother. Oh, snap. I never noticed that before. There's a crown on the ground. Is that the Hierophant? See, because the little crosses on the Hierophant, looks like the cross is on this, but it's on the dude's sleeve. Can you see? Hold up. You see that little sleeve? Maybe not. I don't think it's going to focus. There you go. And there's a crown on the ground and some like old wizardy person. I was like, what? Who was that? Who was that? And there's another person right here. Maybe there's also an energy here of like having to be everyone else's backbone. But this horse is comforting this person. There may also be an energy here where it's like excuse me. There's an energy here where it's like maybe you shouldn't do so much too. And it's not necessarily like in a petty way, even though it feels like it might be satisfying. I can be petty sometimes. But it feels like because I'm looking at the lovers and this is more equal. But it feels like over here, like she's all the way over here. And because she's this close, he doesn't have to do much. So maybe it's this energy where it's like, before you call it quits, again, it's like have those conversations and force those boundaries and give and do almost like to the level that you receive. And again, it's almost this energy where it's like, well, you're basically self-sufficient at this point because whatever this is, it's not giving in like substantial ways. Like, I mean, there's a lot of fire here, so like it's somebody to lay next to, I guess, if it's a person, or there's like some element of like not being cold or alone. But it feels like it's like all it is a body at this point. I mean, there's also a heart in there, right? Because it feels like there is a lot of love here. But that's the thing, I guess. It's like, we all mature at different rates and we all want different things at different points of our lives. And we all have different abilities to adjust and acclimate and acclimatize to the different phases that we go through within our life, right? And I think sometimes it's like we welcome certain things, not understanding what kind of transition we're going to have to do to accommodate it, right? It's like if you want to have a child, but you don't want to have to like take care of the child. Like you don't want to have to change diapers. You don't want to have to get anybody up and make sure they're like going to school. You don't want to have to like put anybody to bed. And it's like, but if you want a child, like those are things you have to do. It's like if you want to be married and like move in with somebody else, but at the same time, it's like you want your own space. It feels like there's a level of like change that this person has like been overly well, I feel like it's not necessarily overly whatever. Like it feels more appropriate here. And it feels like this one just like isn't. And I think that's where like the rift and the schism started. And then as you continue to live life, it's just like it gets wider and wider and wider. Because it's like, well, now we have this, now we have that, now we have a mortgage, now we have whatever, I don't know, right? Life. But the love is here. So it feels like a sort of tough position to be in. But it feels like an energy where like you don't have to do it all yourself. And maybe with this Eight of Cups, it's like maybe you choose to do that thing where it's like maybe you stay in the relationship, maybe you stay in the situation, but you retreat to where is appropriate for a more equal exchange rather than being the person like overly giving and overly whatever. And it feels like that may not even necessarily be easy because it feels like, again, it's like, it feels like you really want this person to be involved. Or maybe you decide that you're going to go out and you're going to find it and you're not going to spend any more time here where it's not reciprocated because you've done that and you're ready for something else. And it does feel like it sort of breeds a certain animosity here because it feels like this person's like, here I am, I got to fill my own cups, I got to fill everybody else's cups, and I'm not the only person here. Like it's not fair, and it isn't. So, Gemini. I mean, this is obviously like the title is obviously going to be should I stay or should I go? Or should you stay or should you go? I guess the question is can you do both stay and go? And it's not necessarily like cheating or infidelity at all, but it's like that, like giving what's appropriate. It's like if you're only going to put in this much, then I'm only going to put in this much, but I'm going to continue to pour into myself since I got to do that anyway. And if you want more, then do more. And like within a relationship at that point, that's where I feel like it really starts to strain or it really gets like strained and then it gets weird. And then at a certain point, it sort of reaches that point where it's like, well, why are you two still together anyway? Is it just because of history? Is it just because of kids? Is it just because of a house? Because on some level, like being in that environment impacts and affects everyone. And it's almost like, maybe you'd be better together separate. I don't know. You decide for you, Gemini. I mean, you got Mercury, Gemini, and Virgo here. Also, with Virgo here, there may be like either like siblings or people close to you that I mean, I feel like talking to other people doesn't necessarily help because again, it feels like people would just tell you what you already know you should do. Maybe there's a way that you can compassionately go about this. Maybe there's a way that you can approach this conversation not from the space of everything that you've sort of been sacrificing. And it may be difficult because it feels like there's a lot of feelings here. But maybe it's like it's how you say what you say because maybe this person like already knows. Maybe they're struggling within themselves to be more than just a title or a body in a bed somewhere. Maybe you can talk it through and work it out through like honest communication. And it's like if you can't have a conversation with somebody, it's gonna be, I don't know. That's what I got, Gemini. This was not expected, but that's fine. I wish you all the best in this. And I wish you the happiness that you deserve. And if this resonates, I'm glad that you found ways to like pour into yourself and to get you closer to the path that you want to be on, that feels progressive and enriching and all kinds of things for you. Especially like between this Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles and the Magician over here, it feels like you're in the space of like moving forward. But as you move forward, it feels like other things start to feel like baggage and dead weight. But I'm glad you're doing what you need to do for you. Because at the very least, like, that mitigates some things or it prevents some things. Because now it's not like you're not doing what it is that you want to do for you and simultaneously like blaming someone else. Because then at a certain point, it kind of sort of does become, well, why don't you just go out and do what you need to do? And it's like you're doing it. So I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, Gemini. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And I hope that whatever you need along your journey, way, and path, you find it. And see, there's something about this cup. Maybe it's the lighting, but this one is green and all the other ones are yellow. Well, these got a slightly greenish tint at the bottom of it. Maybe as like you sort of grow and advance, it becomes this thing where it's like it's not spite, it's not petty, it's not anger, it's just me taking care of me. I've reached the point where I gotta take care of myself with this one green cup, right? And then these cups starting to turn green. Because maybe when you're like closer to the situation or when you're in it, when you're actively experiencing that, that's where this comes up. And if you're in that energy and you try to speak to it from that space, that's where it's going to be an argument because it's like you're approaching it that way in a sense. Not necessarily, but it's like when you're that in it, it makes it more difficult for it to go any other way. And if those are the only times where you say anything, then it's kind of sort of like you're not that you're working against yourself, but it's like you're not necessarily putting yourself in a situation where the conditions are favorable to have that conversation, if that makes sense. And again, like hopefully this is somebody you can talk to. But at the end of the day, it feels like Gemini is going to reach that point where Gemini's like, I got to take care of Gemini. I got to pour into Gemini. I got to make sure Gemini is good. All the best with this, Gemini. I'll see y'all next time I see y'all. Bye.